my name is Debbie, Alligator Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 13. Today is Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, but a little bit about what I'm reading and watching and life thrown in. So welcome back to all of my returning viewers, and if this is your first time here, welcome. I hope that you will enjoy what you see. To all my American viewers, I hope that you had a good 4th of July weekend, and to viewers in Canada, I hope that you had a good Canada Day towards the end of last week. My husband and I had a quiet 4th of July. We tend to stay home for the 4th of July or other holidays where there might be a lot of fireworks or firecrackers or whatever might be going off. We have 2 cats, and while they usually do quite well during thunderstorms, sometimes with especially things like firecrackers, which have a lot of noises going on simultaneously, they find that a little bit stressful. So we were happy to spend the evening home and just sort of resting and relaxing. So before I get into all of my stitching, I just want to give a shout out to members of the Under 1000 Subs Club. This is an attempt by Flosstubers to encourage Flosstubers like me who have fewer than 1,000 viewers, just to help boost their numbers a little bit. When you get to 1,000 subscribers, it just allows you to put on more content, put things on the community tab and things like that that you can't do on YouTube until you have 1,000 subscribers. So the channel that I want to shout out this week is the Grace Notes Stitchers. It's a mother and daughter team, Corinne and Colleen, and they work on a variety of projects, and they're just so excited about cross stitching, and it's really fun to watch them. And I was just laughing last week when I was watching them because they were talking about Invisalign and some of the struggles with that, and as someone who's now had it for almost 2 months, whatever, I'm used to it, but I still from time to time get annoyed, and I know that sometimes I don't speak as clearly as I should have because of it. So I was just laughing when they had that conversation. And then on top of it, they're going to be starting a stitch along with John Clayton kits. And I was a few videos ago, I had asked if anyone knew about John Clayton and where I could get them in the United States, because they are another form of Pretty Ladies, but they're a little bit more detailed than maybe Mirabilia's. And I was just wondering, because it's John Clayton patterns are done by Carriage Crafts, which is based in the UK, and it just seemed complicated to get a kit in the United States. And so they kindly answered my question and said, yes, you can get kits at various stores, but you can also just get the patterns from 123 Stitch, and why I never thought to look there is beyond me. But if anyone is interested in John Clayton, that's where you can get some of his patterns. So now on to my stitching. As many of you have watched my videos before, you know that I really like to play a lot of the various Facebook games, which help motivate me in my cross stitch and help me to decide what I should be working on. I have about 40 active whips right now, 40 active projects. And while I love them all, sometimes I just like to have a little direction on which one I'm going to stitch on. That motivates a lot of what I do, but every now and then I like to get a finish. And so the first thing I want to show you is actually a finish. So this is Wise Old Owl by Lesley Anne. I did it on a piece of 25 count linen in the color tea, and I think that actually is the color. I don't think it certainly isn't tea dyed, and I don't even know who produced the linen. Although it's the way between the weave and the stiffness, it definitely feels like if it's not Wichelt, that they use that as a base before they dyed it. So this was something I've probably had in my stash for 20 years, and so that's why I can't give you more information. But anyhow, this was a pattern from Lesley Anne. It was just the pattern, although there was some overdyed floss that you were supposed to use for the words. But when I tried to use the overdyed floss, because of my choice of fabric, the floss didn't show up. It was about this color here, and it just, I thought, I don't care on the leaves that they're not showing up perfectly, but for the words, obviously with something like this, you want to be able to read the words. So everything is 2/2 except for the words, which is 1/1. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up. And this is Wise Old Owl. and this is my second finish for the year. So I'm really happy that I was able to get another finish. Not entirely sure what I'm going to do with that when I am, how I'm going to fully finish it, but my husband's like, oh, let's take it to the frame shop, but that's quite expensive. So I may try to frame it at home or do something else so I can display it, because I think it's really cute and I like the saying inside of it. So one of the, now moving on to my active projects, one of the games that I am playing currently this week is through the No New Starts 2021 group, and right now they have something called a riff off, and it's going for 1 week, and basically the idea is they give you a theme word, you find a project with that matches that theme word, and then from that you take a motif in each of the you basically take a motif and you say, okay, I link it to this next project, and then you pick a different motif and you link it to the next project, and so on and so on. So I'm going to show you what I have been working on for that, and if I can tie it into other games that I'm playing, great. So the theme word was patriotic, so I chose Let Freedom Ring by Leela's Studio. We also got credit for bonus items. There's a list of, I don't know, maybe 15 items that if they're in the pattern, you get extra credits. And so this also had a lot of those items. So it was star, so I said there was a star in the flag, arches, so there are arches in the building, strawberries. I am not sure if these things are strawberries or not, but next, sorry, where it says Let Freedom Ring, over here, sorry, I think those are strawberries, I'm not 100% sure. And so I just said, okay, this fits a lot of things. I also am playing in Semisane This or That, where you put up a couple of projects and let people choose what you're going to work on, and it's supposed to be your focus project, although they say a minimum of 500 stitches. So I'm over halfway to my 500 stitches on this, so I will get this done relatively soon for that. But here's where I am now on that. So I was able to sort of color in these flowers here. I put some of the light blue here, and then just extended the stem a little bit further down and a little bit over. So I really am enjoying this pattern. This is done on it's a 32 count linen. I think it's picture this plus Ren, although I'm not 100% sure. So this is a really fun project to stitch and a really great time to do it right now, especially as we have just come off celebrating the 245th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence signing. So my link to that was, obviously there's a flower, and so then I wanted to link it. I linked it to this, which is the tea table. This is one I've not pulled out for a few months. This is by Serendipity Designs, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to pull this out was another one of the bonus items was a bouquet of flowers, and so I thought this would be a great one to pull out. So I pulled it out and just worked on a little bit of the purple. I think those are hydrangeas. I just worked a little bit on that so I could, and you have to put in 200 stitches per project. So I just pulled this out and put in the stitches on that. Again, this is a design I've had. It's from the 1990s, I think, so it's been in my stash for a really long time. And I started it for Mania last year because I really wanted to pull out things that I had in my stash for a long time, and you know, why have them if you're not going to stitch them? So then the next project that I had, because obviously that was the tea table, there was a teacup, was I pulled out a little cake shop, and you can see this is like a poster on the wall, and there are, you can see, if I get a camera, little teacups in that poster. And so I pulled this out and put in some stitches. I put them, sort of, I think the stitches for this prompt, I put them in up here. I also am using this for, we're playing bingo in Semisane, and I'll get a little bit more into that, but one of the numbers got called for the color, and so I just put a little bit into the next poster down here. So I don't think I showed this last week. It's been a few weeks since I pulled this out. So I'm really happy to be getting this back out. This is my largest project, and so I feel that any progress I make on it is good progress because it's going to be something that is going to be in my project pile for a long time. After that, the next thing that I moved on from Little Cake Shop was to the Apple Sampler, which is from an old issue of Just Cross Stitch Country Crafts. So here it is, and then you can see there's an apple pie as part of the picture. And so so the link between Little Cake Shop and Apple Sampler was dessert. So here's where this is now. So what I did here was I finished these sort of apple cores here. I still have a couple of stitches, one more color that I need to pull out to finish those, but they're pretty close to being done. And then what I did was all of these navy blue stripes, I pulled them over to the far edge. So again, I feel like I'm getting close on this. Obviously, I still have to do the matching border on this side, but this border just flies. It is, it's very repetitive, not a lot of counting. And so once you just make sure that you are in the right place, once I get it started, it will just fly. So this has been a lot of fun to stitch. I think if I had to do it over again, I would have been a little bit more careful about the colors in some of these apples. It's not looking too bad on screen, but in person, there's not enough shading is, not quite worried, but why is there white in the middle of this apple? I get it, it's supposed to be light coming off of it, but another color might have been better. It's just really stark between some of the colors. But other than that, I do really like this, and so I was glad to have another chance to pull it back out. After that, I said there was a tree in that one, and so I pulled out a year Hawk-Run Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. Obviously, there's trees in various places in Hawk-Run Hollow. So I am currently working on the July box. I'm going down. So didn't get a huge amount done. I think I also used this, did a little bit more at the end of June on this after my last video, but I started putting in a little bit of the water, and then what I did for this prompt was I just put in the white, the sails of the ship and then the reflection of the sails that is in the water. I also put this in the magazine monthly challenge acrostic. The word was jolly, so I said for why a year at Hawk-Run Hollow, and I wanted to get everything done except for the water. However, I realize it's probably quite ambitious. I don't think I'm going to get everything done because this, while I can certainly get the stuff up here finished, there's not too much left, just a few more fireworks and writing July and a little bit more at the ship. I don't think I quite realized that down here, you've got the people waving and there's land and there's just a lot more that I need to do. But that's okay. This is a piece that frequently gets pulled out for the various challenge groups. So I will plug along this even if I don't meet my July goal for this. And then the last piece I've worked on so far for the riff-off is Mother of Dragons. And my connection was a woman. There are several women in here at Hawk-Run Hollow, and part of the reason why I wanted to get to this piece again was one of the bonus items was an arch, and you can kind of see it above the dragon's head. Obviously it's quite dark, but there is an arch in the castle, and so I wanted to make sure I could get progress on that. So again, I just pulled this out quickly into 200 stitches just up here on this page. I'm now mostly working on page 3 on this, and you can kind of see this is where the arch is, and you can see what I've already stitched. It comes out better there than in the photo, but anyhow, this was just a quick stitch I did last night. So that's where I am now with the rip-off. I'm trying to get up to 10 projects or more on that, because you don't get points for every project you do, but increments. I think the first one is 10, then 15, and so on, and I don't think I'm going to get to 15. I might do 11 just in case one of my links gets disqualified, although I think they're pretty straightforward. But I've been actually really lucky with the bonus items this time. There was also a bunch of bonus items in Hawkhorn Hollow. There was another strawberry. There was a woman in a blue dress because for some reason the bride is wearing a blue dress. So I did that, got credit for that. So I actually have a lot more bonus items than I do projects that I'm working on, but that's still been a lot of fun. So let me move on to other projects I've worked on over the past couple of weeks. This is Artecy White Owl, artwork by Kayomi Harai, and I just put a few stitches in this, basically sort of came across and did this here, so not too much. This project, however, is for I'm trying to think which one. Oh yes, for Letters of the Month, I'm doing M and N. And so I said this has the night sky, which is all these beautiful blues. So we'll pull this out and work on it quite a bit for that. I also have picked a lot of colors for this for bingo. None of them have been called, so I haven't worked on it much yet for that. Bingo and Semisane. But then I'm also playing bingo in full coverage fanatics, and this one of the options is to choose something with 5 colors of blue, and this has got, just as you can see, tons of shading of blue. So this project was a natural to work on for that. I also pulled out High Intensity by Artecy, artwork by Agnew. This is the cropped version, and I think for my Magazine Monthly Challenge, I chose at the end of June one of for the word was swim, and for the letter I did because of intensity. And so I just took a day and put in quite a few stitches. So originally I'd worked on a hard copy, and so I was doing it page by page, and this was page 1. But now that I'm doing it in Pattern Keeper, I'm just trying to fill in. So I've been working a little bit down here and a little bit up here, and then as the string takes me, I continue with that. But I really love this picture, and so whenever I get a chance to pull it out, I do. And because this is a cropped version, even just this much, and this is all I've done, is 10%. So it's something that when I do decide to really say, okay, I'm going to make this a focus, it will go very quickly. The next one I worked on, and I only put in just a few stitches, was Tug of War by Mystic Stitch. And so I think I originally on the Magazine Monthly Challenge had said I wanted to get to a page finish, and I didn't even get close on this. So here's where I am now. This is basically what the page break is. So I have all of this to do in here. But for the bingo full coverage, I think there's because the Olympics are taking place in Tokyo, Japan, you can pick up a design that begins with a T or a J, Tug of War. So I will pick this up and put in 1,000 stitches, hopefully, so I can complete that box. There's also, you can pick up Athens. That's in the row that I'm trying to accomplish. And so if I feel that 1,000 stitches doesn't get me close here, I will do another 1,000 stitches on this so I can get a page finish, because I really do want to get a page finish. There's a lot of background in this, and it's, to be honest, as you know, it's all black and dark green and navy blue, and it does get a bit tedious after a while. Here, this little edge here will be the clothespin, so that's the first sort of item that pops up that's not background, but that's on page 2. So anyhow, I love the picture, but it just it's slow going right now. The next thing that I worked on was Old World Map, large, and this is from Artecy. So I am in the upper right hand corner right now. So I, for the most part, have been working in here, although for bingo in Semisane, the number 3865 came up, which is this sort of pale sort of white here. It's on my Semisane bingo board, which means I need to do at least 100 stitches in 3865 and another 100. It can be the same color, but a different color, but it's a minimum of 100 stitches in 3865. So I decided to start, this is the top of the world, so I basically put stitches in here. So you really can't see much because it is such a pale color. But I do love how I'm just seeing all these other figures start to come in here. That really sort of brings this piece to life. The next one I'm going to show is one I have not shown before on my channel. And it's this Christmas cat in the world of cross stitch from 2019. And I just want to show you in the back what I'm looking at. That's an example of a John Clayton. So anyhow, just as I mentioned earlier. But anyhow, this was one because we had the full year. We knew what was coming up in Magazine Monthly Challenge, the themes through August. I knew that it was going to be Jolly July. And so I did 200 stitches quickly on that in December so I could have it ready to go, but I hadn't put any stitches in since then. Here's where I am now, and it doesn't really look like much of anything. Because basically this is, I think, sort of in the cat's face. This is the top of the cat's foot, but basically I had just put in the stitches here to get it started. And then this is, because I knew this was a July piece, I put a lot of the numbers on this on my bingo seine board, where you have to do 50 stitches of that color if it's called, and a number of these colors have been called. So like this is 161, and this is actually a half stitch. So I had to do 100 stitches of that. Like this is, I don't remember if this is 352, but somewhere in that range. And when I selected my colors, I thought there was a lot more of that, but there wasn't, which is why I had to do these 3 patches all over the place. And then 712 got called, and so I just put in the cat's foot, and you can sort of see, start to see the outline of what I call the toe beans, the little pads of the kitty's foot. That's what those 2 blank spaces will be. I love this picture. I think it's really cute, and it should, again, this is a 16 count, I think it's 16 count blue Aida that I had in my stash forever. It's not hand dyed. I think it's just a piece of Charles craft. And so I just, the picture here, this is a lovely hand dyed fabric. So mine will not have the same effect, but it is a blue door, and I just thought this would work really well for that. So the next piece that I worked on for the acrostic for the monthly challenge, I decided I wanted to put a lot of these letters in. So this is Love One Another, from an old issue of Cross Stitching Country Crafts. This is one I had originally started in December, but really in preparation for February, where the theme was going to be love. I got the stitches in I needed in February, but I decided that I wanted to keep working on this. This one, again, is a really, really small design, as you can see, and I'm not even doing everything. Like, I'm not doing the frame around there. I haven't decided if I'm going to do all these little dots or not, but definitely I'll do the words and then the 3 flowers on the bottom. So I use this for the acrostic. The word is jolly, so I picked O for love one another, and then L for love one another twice, but with different goals. There is no way that I'm going to meet my goals on this, but that's okay. But I did use this for my bingo selections as well, matching the colors. And so one of them has come up in Semisane. It was 744, which is this yellow. So I just basically worked on outlining the N there. This is another, this is one. I'm making good progress on this. It's slower than I thought it would be. This is a 14 count black Aida that's in my stash, but it's quite stiff, and it also there are a lot of fractionals in this, and it's very hard to pierce this. I have much better success with other Aida. This is really tightly woven Aida, which in a lot of cases is good, but not so good when you're trying to do fractionals. Other projects that I worked on, so this is The Green Dancer by Artecy, based on the artwork from Edgar Degas. And for Crystal Academy, this was my piece. I can't remember which spell we were working on. Maybe it was Captive Foam. But anyhow, it was, we got to choose our own pieces at the beginning of the term that we wanted to use. And I chose this for this particular spell. So this is Green Dancer. So I finished sort of the top quarter, and I'm now starting to work. And even though I only have a hard copy pattern, it's only 139 stitches across, so I can get it all into a 11 by 11 Q snap. So I'm basically doing the 3 pages all together rather than sort of doing it page by page. So right now I'm just picking colors that appear frequently. So a lot of sort of pulling down this dancer's sort of her tutu, this sort of orange color, and then I picked black and 3799. I'm sure there's another gray in there, just to start pulling it down and giving the basis, because there is, especially when you get like into the this dancer with her tutu, a lot of confetti that goes into that. And so I find that whenever I do some of the more prominent colors first, it's either easier than when you do confetti to have a place. One, counting is much easier, but then secondly, you know, that you have stitches to run your thread under and everything else. It's just easier to do it that way. So this one, if I keep going with the full coverage fanatics, bingo, one of them is pick your project that's closest to a finish, and this one at over 25% is closest to a finish, and that's partially because it is much smaller. It is the smallest full coverage I have that's not something like a male hill. And then the last project that I did work on was, of course, Cats in the Toy Box. This is the Haid artwork by Lesley Anne Ivory. So this is my focus piece for anything where I can have a focus. This is my focus piece. So full coverage fanatics, I use this, and I think I just have to add up my stitches, but I'm well over the 21,000 mark. So I need to get credit for that. And then I use it to build cabins in magical stitches, and I use it, I'm using it in Semisane for my focus piece, and I do that every month. And then I also use it in Crystal Academy for extra credit. So wherever I can slap it down is where I do it. And it's a piece that I just love working on so much. So since the last time, I've just done a little bit more filling in some of these background here, and then some of these colors working in the koala. I also get, and I don't know exactly what I call it, the shimmer of the kitty. So you can see the tail pretty clearly now. But you can start to see sort of, maybe it's easier from back, but you can just start seeing like the point of the ears and other things. If you know it's a kitty, you can tell what it is. But if you don't, maybe it's sort of a question mark. But just sort of taking colors, some of the predominant colors, and now starting to fill in and really build this up. And I also, for Semisane, for my Semisane board, I did pick colors from this, and none of them have been called yet. So that's where I am on this right now. And again, one of my favorite projects. I just love working on it. And I've done this before, but I love doing it. You can sort of see all that I've done so far on this. So this will get me to the top. Gets me all the way across. Okay, so that's all the projects that I worked on. I want to show you a little bit when I keep talking about the various bingos. So for Semisane, basically, you built your own board. It's like bingo, that you have 25 blocks, but the center block is free. And so basically you got to pick your own numbers. Originally the rules were a little bit more strict, but then they decided that was just too too restrictive, and it made it more difficult for people, and it would also make it more difficult for the admins, I think. So they said basically pick any DMC number, and these are the solids, so none of the no étoile or anything like that, but basically anything from, you could do white and and then starting from 0, 1 all the way up to wherever they are. The 3800s, I think, is the end of their solids, if I am correct. Obviously, DMC doesn't have that many colors, so you had to prepare your board ahead of time so that you aren't saying, oh yeah, that number got called, I'm gonna write it down. But secondly, the admins are just for checking to make sure that they had, that you didn't pick a number like, I don't know, 58, which is not a DMC color. They wanted to make sure that, you weren't going to get frustrated because you put down a number that wasn't a legitimate one. So anyhow, here's where my same board is now. My two primary projects for this are, Love One Another and The Christmas Cat. And I've gotten, 5 of these numbers have been called. And this was also, I think towards the end, this was from Little Cake Shop. But nowhere close to anything that's coming close to bingo. I think the most is, well, I guess going this yellow line down is the closest because of the free space. So come on, 435 and 739. Let's get them called. And again, it's only 50 stitches when they call these numbers, so it's really quite simple to pull it out quickly. But it's, they call 88 numbers now, and so I'm doing 2 bingo boards. None of the numbers repeat, and I've only had 6 numbers called. So in this one, there's 5 that have been called, and then on a Semisane board, only 1 of them have been called, which is this one down here in the bottom corner. It's sort of funny, I was looking at other bingo boards just more to make sure I was doing it correctly, and it's amazing the number of people like me who put 310 in the upper left-hand corner. I think that's the number that sort of, if you have to sort of start putting numbers down and not looking at your projects, that is probably the number that most of us have one way or another in our projects. Well, obviously not everyone did it. There's no guarantee that 310 will be called. That is sort of a logical one to put in. I don't think anyone has gotten any bingos on this. I really sort of thought it would go more quickly, the games, because while there is like getting, I think, like once one person gets a traditional bingo, that person gets first place, and then there is a second and third. And then they do, I think, go on to have also what they call a blackout bingo. So you can keep going with that. But I don't think my mind, even though I've been to Joann's and Michael's so many times and I know all the DMC colors are out there, you forget how many there are. So even though the 88 numbers have been called, there's a lot more that haven't been called. And so I think a lot of people are, on the same boat that I am. But the other bingo, as I mentioned, full coverage fanatics. So this is what that board looks like. If I am successful, this is the row that I will go down. So one is a water, lake, or beach evening romance. I'll use for that because there is a stream. I didn't pull it up. I don't have it with me right now. The next one is, again, as I mentioned, T or J, so that will be Tug of War. The next one is closest to the finish, Green Dancer, which I mentioned. Then beginning with Athens, so I have a number. I could do Evening Romance, I could do Tug of War. I probably have another one that fits in there that I haven't looked at yet. So I have some variety for that, and one is at least 5 colors of blue floss in the design, as I mentioned, White Owl. There's actually another bingo board as well in one of my cross stitch groups, which is in Magical Stitches. There's a bingo board, but it's for the reading challenge. And so if you can do, and she basically, because I think the original name used to be Magical Stitches and Literature. They now just call it Magical Stitches to make it simpler, but reading is a big component of it. And so, everything is sort of optional, but if you want to do the reading challenge part of it, she's got a bunch of different categories. And then I think she just on her own sort of like drew and put 25 categories on the board. Including, I think the center is you still have to read, but then it's your choice what you want to read. And it's everything from, paranormal to Western to historical fiction to autobiography, or, lots of different categories like that. And then some of it is like a library book, an audio book, so that the type of book doesn't matter. It's more the physical, how do you listen to, how do you read it, or where do you get the material to read? So it's a lot of fun. I'm an avid reader. So I'm working on that, but somehow I put a bunch of holds in my library for May and June, and they all have just popped up right now. For my electronic books, I am able to defer them and get them later for my library, but for the hard copy ones, I had to go to the library and pick them up. So I'm reading those books first. So I'm hoping that I will have enough time to read the other books as I get to them. But I love to read, and I put the books on hold for a reason. So my upcoming plans, I've mentioned a lot of them to you already, to continue with the various games and to work on Crystal Academy and Extra Credit and all of that. So the one other game that I'm playing in No New Starts, it's not really a game, a challenge, is they do basically every 2 weeks a birthday stitch along, and the idea is to pick up something from your existing, don't start something to join the stitch along, but do something with them. And so someone who has the birthday during those 2 weeks says, hey, I'd like to do this for my birthday, Sal, and that's the item that is picked. So someone said, hey, Portrait of Veronica by Mirabilia. I'm working on it. I don't think I have a lot of progress from last time, but again, any excuse I have to plow through some of this 1/1 that I'm doing right now will get me more than to the fun part where I can start working on her dress. I'm hoping that I'll be able to pick this up next Monday because Lisa from Cross by Floss is now during May for her mania, she did Mirabilia, and like a number of people did, but then she said, she has all these great miras in her stash, and she basically says, okay, every Monday she's going to devote to a Mirabilia. So I will hopefully pick that up then and work on it. Next one, I don't know what happened to the picture. I'm sure it's around somewhere, but I couldn't find it in time for this video. But I've shown this before. This is Midnight Vigil. This is also for the letters of the month. Midnight Vigil, it's pretty straightforward. It's a picture of a cat at midnight. You can see there's a moon, and there's a candle, and he's looking at his reflection, so kind of a spooky cat, but I love black cats, so to me he's just really, really cute. So I guess I kind of missed the point, but anyhow, and there's curtains and stuff. So again, I knew I was going to be working on this month, so for Semisane, a lot of the numbers I chose were in this, but again, some of them are 310, 3799. They're in a lot of different projects. So but I also, this for Crystal Academy for the next 2 weeks. This is the project I have for the spell I have to learn. So I have a minimum of 715 stitches on this before my next video. And it is also my next link for Letters of the Month. Not Letters of the Month. For the ripoff. I honestly don't remember what the connection was. I'll have to go back and check, but this is the one that I will use next. And then lastly for WIPGO, Let Freedom Ring, which I showed you earlier, was one of my WIPGO draws, and the other one is one I haven't pulled out too much this year. This is Fabulous Women from Clouds Factory. It was a mystery stitch along, I don't know, a few years ago. I bought it after the fact. So here's where it is. So I'm only on the second one. That's Cleopatra. This will be Joan of Arc, and it says women. The top will say women are the architects of society. My WIPGO goal on this one was to get 2 women done. So it shouldn't be a terribly difficult goal to achieve as long as I make time to get there. So that is all of the stitching I have to show you. All of my fabrics for the month came in the past 2 weeks, so I have to show them to you. The first one I got, and all my fabrics for the month are 32 count even weaves, the Ghana. So the first one is Old West from Color and Cotton. So that's what it looks like. This is a fat quarter, as all of mine are. So sort of a good sampler color, sort of with a warm background. The next one I got was from Stitch Me, and it's called Neptune. It's got really pretty modeling in it. not quite as bright as it's showing up there, but it is really quite lovely. I love stitching on blues. If I'm going to go for something that has a little pop of color, that's sort of where I naturally gravitate to. So that's what that one looks like. And then the last one I got was from Fortnite Fabrics. I'm in there, 12 Shades of Gray. So here's what this looks like. And this is called I Try. So I love the Fortnite Fabrics. I am getting a lot of gray now stashed, because not only from Fortnite Fabrics, but from the other fabric clubs that I'm in, that they've had sort of grayish tones come in. But my really exciting news when it comes to stash acquisition was that a new cross stitch store opened in my town. There had been one here, I don't know how many years ago. I've met the woman who owned it, but she retired. She's still very active in my area with doing cross stitch and embroidery, but I think she was ready to retire, and so she closed her store. So the woman who has opened this store, she's lived in my county. I of course ran to the store as soon as I found out that it was here, and so she has lived in the county I live in for her entire life. She has she's done reproduction samplers herself, and so the name of the samplers that she has reproduced, the company name is called Victorian Rose, or Victorian Rose Sampler, I'm not entirely sure. And she has had an online store for the past few years, but she has now gotten a storefront. And so someone texted me and said, hey, there's a new cross stitch store in town. And so, without even thinking, I was like, well, I have to go to the library anyhow. That's really close to the library because I had to go pick up my books. So without even thinking twice, I basically jumped in the car. I said, well, I got to go to the library now, and jumped in the car and went over to check out the cross stitch store. And it is quite lovely because she does a lot, because she sort of came out of samplers. She has, a lot of the traditional companies with her samplers. I'm sorry, I was just watching a cat run across the street, and a cat I've never seen before. But a lot of her fabrics, I think, are ones that then you would see traditionally on samplers. A lot of sort of more the neutral colors. She didn't have a lot of sort of bright colors that you stitch sort of more modern things on. But her selection of fabrics, all which are pre-cut, was quite great. And I just sort of, and she has a lot of patterns, so think Hands Across the Sea and Rosewood Manor and the Scarlet House, and a lot of the other company. I mean, just, like any cross stitch store, when you go in, there's just bin after bin after bin of patterns. And so, Plum Street and, but then there was also things that clearly are not samplers, like Hello from Liz Matthews and the Blue Flower. I mean, they do some samplers, but that's not really, they have a lot of other more modern patterns. But it was just really fun to go there, and she had a huge selection of floss. She doesn't carry in DMC. She said it's because of the space issue, but to be honest, I don't go to a cross stitch store to get DMC. If I need something, it's great they have it, but I can go to Joann's or Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any place like that and pick up DMC. I don't need a cross stitch store to do that. But so she had, Weeks and the Gentle Art and Classic Colorworks, and then she had MPI Silks, and pretty sure that I saw some Averrois Soulager, and just huge collection. And so I was so unprepared when I went that I have a running list of sort of what do I need in terms of fancy floss and other things, and I just left that home, and it was a good thing I did, because I would have spent a lot more money, but it gives me an excuse to go back. But I did, of course, buy a few things because I can't help myself. So the first thing I bought, and again, it was because she had them, and I didn't even know what I needed it for, but I know that I have, you see them, you need them, they're hard to find. So I got 2 Carriage Black from the Gentle Art, and 2 Black Coffee from Classic Colorworks. I know I have so many patterns that call for these, and these are ones that are just impossible to find, or at least they have been. And so I was like, I know I'm going to use them, so I might as well go ahead and get them. I also got another piece of fabric. It's this 32 count vellum from Picture This Plus. Again, it's a great color for if you're doing samplers or anything else that you just want to have a nice neutral background. And then I also bought one, whoops, if I can actually show it to you, I did buy a Mira. This is Crystal Symphony. I'm sure people are working on this, but it's not one that really comes to mind. She had a pretty good selection of Miras, but this was the one that really stuck out for me. I could have spent a lot more money there, but I decided not to. You know, it's a 10-minute drive from my house, and I think I'm really excited that it's here. I really hope that she has a lot of success with it. You know, I know it's always hard to move from an online store to expand in what is such a sort of niche area like cross stitch, that it's hard that even though in various Facebook groups I'm in, especially ones that are focused on Florida, there was a lot of discussion about it after it opened. After, like, she, basically I was her first paying customer, although there was someone else the one who told me about the store was already there when I showed up, but she spent a lot more time there than I did. So I technically was the first paying customer in the store. So I wish the store the best, and I know that I will continue to be a loyal customer. So that's all I have for the stitching. Just a little bit about what I've been reading and watching. One book I highly recommend that I finished last week. It was called The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline, and I'm not going to say her last name correctly probably. I don't know if it's Boulay or Boulay, but it is technically a young adult novel, but it didn't feel like a young adult novel in some ways. I mean, the protagonist I think is 18 or 19 years old, but it's not. In fact, I know she's 18 because they make a point. I think she turns 19 right at the towards the end of the book. But it's basically about someone who is Native American. She's from her father's family is Chippewa, and she lives in Michigan. And it's some of it is your basic life stuff, and some of it is focusing on some of the experience of just her the Chippewa, and her father's Chippewa, her mother is not, and some of the trials and tribulations that many Native Americans are going through right now in terms of dealing with sort of drug addiction and other things that are going on in their community, as well as people, about trying to find the balance between, what is appropriate law enforcement issues about what is something that you want the federal government to assist you on, and what are things that are better handled by the Chippewa themselves, crimes and things like that, and also talks about the impact of a casino and how that affects people's choices. And so I just thought it was really well written. I certainly learned a lot from it about sort of just issues that I never even thought of that impact Native Americans. And so the reason why I say that it didn't feel like it was a young adult novel was, yes, this is someone who sort of had to straddle both worlds, and sort of was someone who thought that she was going to go move away for university, but then like her grandmother got sick, so she didn't go. But clearly someone who had a lot of opportunities that she could have followed, and trying to find that balance. But I didn't. A lot of young adults, I feel that they make the lead character like out to save the world, and that's not what this was about at all. I mean, yes, she was special in the sense that she, again, is the way as I mentioned, but I really enjoyed it. I did listen to the audiobook, and I thought the narrator did a good job. The only issue that I had was that that there are times that they used Chippewa words in the book, and while it is important to say them correctly, it was clearly edited in after the fact, and so it was very jarring to sort of have someone speaking in one way, and then all of a sudden, like, there was this brief pause, and then the words were said, and then there was another pause while they resumed what had clearly been the original recording. And that sort of did take it away from me, and then also even some of the English words were mispronounced, even though this was a native English speaker who was reading it. But other than that, like that, those are sort of little picky details. I'm still someone who's, I don't want to say struggling with audiobooks, but they are new to me. And like right now I'm reading one audiobook that I regret getting as an audiobook, because I think if I had actually read it with my eyes as opposed to read it with my ears by listening to it, I would have enjoyed it much more, which is Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I think that's one of those books I need to dive in, and hearing a voice that doesn't sound like what I think the character should sound like sort of has taken a lot away from me. But I do recommend very strongly The Firekeeper's Daughter if you're wanting to learn more about the Chippewa, or just any of sort of some of the issues that Native Americans are facing today. And then what have I been watching? So my husband and I recently binge watched The Kaminsky Method. This is a Chuck Lorre production. I don't remember where it was originally broadcast, but not on the broadcast TV. It's through one of the streaming services, and I don't know if it was Netflix or Hulu or someone else who did it. But it's with Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin, and it's about, some of it's about getting old in Hollywood. A lot of it is just, about some of the issues of aging that apply to anyone. And the power of Chuck Lorre. So first of all, he has Michael Douglas do this comedy. Michael Douglas is amazing actor, but that he also was able to pull in a lot of really big names. Some of them just for cameos, like Jay Leno makes a cameo, and Morgan Freeman. There are a few other people that just sort of make cameos, and they are playing themselves or caricatures of themselves. But then there's also other people, like they brings in Kathleen Turner to play the ex-wife of Michael Douglas. And for those of you who are old enough like me, remember movies like Romancing the Stone and War of the Roses, and just sort of, that sort of inside joke about, those were supposed to be two lovebirds, and now like 30, 40 years later, here's their failed marriage. They're not playing the same characters at all. I do sort of like that. But then I also like that he's an acting teacher, and he so he has this one, he has an acting school, but like there's one class that obviously they keep going back to. And what I really like about it is that these are they're all almost all of them are in their 20s. And they're people that you might recognize, but you're like, what did I see you in? I'm not 100% sure. And he has given them opportunities to really show their range. And if you know Chuck Lorre, he has a lot of actors that he will use over and over in sort of cameo roles, but across his various shows. He's very loyal to actors that work well with him. But they're comedies, and so that's sort of what their range is. And if they are appearing, once in a 8-episode arc, they're not really showing much of their range. But by putting them in an acting class where they have to do different pieces, they really can show their range. For example, there's one actress, I believe her name is Melissa Tang, who has to play some roles, and she just does these brilliant either scenes, or whether it's a monologue or she's working with someone else. She really has the opportunity to show her range, and I really like that as well. I do appreciate Chuck Lorre when he does that for his actors, that he allows them to stretch. So that's what I've been stitching, reading, and watching for the past 2 weeks. I hope that everyone is doing well and stays well. And if anyone like me is in the path of Elsa, I hope that you stay safe, and Godspeed everyone. Bye-bye.